Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 21st, 2025 Commissioner meeting. Title 6 forms are in the corner by the door. If you'd like to fill one of those in and turn it out to the auditor's office. Kim Mobley, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brian, if you could lead us in prayer.
Sweet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Christian church.
I didn't see it.
Yep.
Right?
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for a beautiful day. We thank you for all the blessings that you give each of us in so many different ways. I thank you for this community that we are blessed to live in. So many wonderful people and wonderful things happening. And Father, just help us to just be a light in this community the way that you call us to. I pray that you bless this meeting, that you will give integrity and wisdom in every decision made, and you will just help us to continue to love our neighbor the way you call us to. We love you, Jesus. We thank you again for this day. We pray in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Ray. All right, gentlemen. Did you have an opportunity to review the July 7th meeting minutes?
It did.
Any comments, amendments?
I motion to accept.
A second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? All right, I'll vote aye as well. Motion carries. Looking over to claims.
Didn't see anything. I'm making a motion to approve claims.
Second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Claims are approved. Looking at payroll for July 17, 2025, in the amount of $412,823.12. Any questions?
I noticed a few things, obviously it's fair time, so it's overtime and such.
That was going to be my only question, was Todd. It looked like there was a decent amount of overtime from the highway department.
Chip and seal.
Okay. What are our guys doing on the chip and seal side?
We are with a contractor from out of the county, and they are also identifying the I don't know the exact name, but there's survey markers in the middle of the road, so we need to pinpoint those and tape over those so we can uncover them at the chip and seal.
Do you have any other questions on payroll? We have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, so there was public notice for a hearing at 8 a.m. for vacating an alley in Clarksburg. Do we have any of the parties here for that?
I am
Okay. And your name, ma'am?
Teresa.
Okay. The floor is yours if you can step up to the podium.
I don't even say or do. Okay, I am asking that we close the alley. It is behind my barn. It's not even accessible to where anybody can get to that alley.
You can give me 1 second. Abby, could you do me a favor? I apologize for putting you in this position. Could you maybe go and just ask them to timber it down just a little bit? Thank you. I'm sorry again.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so you wanted to close an alley behind your barn, sorry.
Yes, the barn is actually right along the roadway. You can't even get to that alley from where. So we're just closing it so that we can have him put all our things together, all our lots. Instead of having so many parcels in that area.
And have you've given notice to all adjoining,
I
adjacent
have,
property owners?
they have signed the papers. And then, I also sent them the certified letters.
Will you have this surveyed?
Yes, Andy is working on surveying it.
When will that be done?
I don't know when it'll be done. He's been on it. He's the one that brought this up, that we need to get it done.
And this is the same
Mhm.
discussion we had last meeting on 6:45, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Are any of the adjoining property owners here today?
Don't think so.
Anybody have any comment from the community?
As far as the county stands at this time, we're not wanting to vacate any roads or alleyways.
Okay.
I think it was also the tech review board mentioned that as well.
What's the thought process on that, Todd?
Sometimes a lot of the drainage runs through the alleyway. Possibly utilities.
I do not believe there's any of that on at this, in this one. There is on the other end, but there's no alley there, but the waterway runs on the other side of my property.
Is there any utilities?
There is not.
No. Even barely,
No,
there's a literally structure in that, on the alley.
yes.
And this is just first notice, right? Other.
I'm trying to orient on which.
Todd, have you been out to see that?
Yes.
What she's talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it on the agenda, so I reached out to auditor's office, talked to Lauren, find out which parcel it was, went down and looked off 640, and then drove down 645. Highway park went out there and turned that into a dead end, put some factory barricades in there.
Yep.
Due to a culvert pipe that's out down there on that road.
Was a building actually built
Yes,
right on the alley?
yeah.
It's right up against the road too. It's not.
And you see that a lot in Milford, you see it burning, you see it in a lot of these areas. So they're building on property that they don't own. And I guess that's where the county stands. Why would we give away property to somebody that they don't have to pay for?
Do you want the alleyway just an easement?
I'm sorry,
Is the alleyway just an easement?
or it's plotted, it's plotted out
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
on
not,
the EIS. It's an alley.
if it was an easement. it's-
A lot of these old towns, that's the way it was. And You know, when I started looking at a couple in Milford, they, you know, their house was clearly built halfway in the alley. Why they were allowed to do that, I don't know, but it happened, you know, 100 years ago.
You know when that barn was put up in?
Do not. I bought it in 2020 and I moved in Clarksburg in 1990 and it was there then.
All right. Any other comment from anyone? All right. We can put it on the agenda for the next meeting then and have our second reading of it and move forward.
Thank you.
We can have any other further discussion. If anybody else wants to come forward at the next meeting, they can be here.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. All right, Todd Howe, Highway Department.
Good morning, Joe.
Good
morning.
Since our last meeting, still a lot of the same maintenance deals, patching, spraying and mowing vegetation, pipe replacement. Bridge 63 is closed for replacement, and this is located on 120 East, south of 300 North. Bridge inspection crew has had that on radar to either close or replace. So we're doing that locally with local funds. So we've got the deck loose. We're going to save the deck because the deck's in good condition. And then we'll tear the end buttons out, put in a new bridge. Okay, so that's probably going to be 10 weeks, 12 weeks, possibly. So I think the Browns is coming in tomorrow with cranes to lift the deck up, put it on trailer. We'll take it back to the shop. And then they'll also drive the pylons. And then we'll get started on building the abutments and going from there. Chip and seal, I think they are completed. They got a few technical things they got to do here in the county yet, but they are done with all the roads. They've sent me 2 different invoices as far as staggered payment. We paid them for the first one. They're due to be paid on for the second payment on this one. They got one more bill to send to us.
What's your review on that? Overall review on chip and seal?
They got one road. I don't think they got off on in time, and it rained, so they have to back address that. But my overall view from the experience we've had this year, I think it's been very, very good. I think they've done good work. They stayed out of people's yards. They had one little cluster I mentioned last meeting, but for the most part, my phone's been pretty quiet. I did receive a couple anonymous emails, but other than that, I haven't really had any complaints.
I would say the same. The ones I've seen and driven on it, good. They've done a good job.
Yeah. So I think we'll find we've got a pretty good result from 116 miles of roads. So once they're complete, they send in all their information. I will get the closeout information to NDOT, get the project closed out. So I'm well within my means with the county. I did read an email this morning from NDOT that they're changing the way they do that, but typically it's on fiscal year from NDOT, and it usually opens up in July. But this year they're opening a call for 2026. It comes out October 1st. It lasts till 31st. But you got to make sure you got your projects closed out and all the documentation to NDOT to be awarded. Okay. So I think Tim and I are in pretty good position to submit starting October 1st. And that would be a conversation I have with him today when I get back to the office. So
Another grant cycle.
a
grant cycle.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll be coming back to ask you for permission to submit, as long as the council, this new grant thing that I got to do with Abby and Christie. So other than that, they capped it to $1 million. They changed the match from a 75-25 to an 80-20. So I know Tim and I have had some conversations whether we're going to do chip and seal again to save some of the roads, or do a 50-50.
Is this where they changed that, where some counties don't have a local, the wheel tax, some are eligible to do that grant process because it was contingent upon having a wheel tax
Well,
to be eligible.
they can still submit and they'll be eligible, but for the extra money that is involved,
That extra million.
the extra million or million and a half, they're not available for that.
Right.
Okay?
Only counts with the wheel tax.
That's correct. That's correct. That's above and beyond the grant. They can still submit if they're in good accord with NDOT. But I feel this is going to be very competitive. I don't know how it's going to play out. I know Decatur County has got this grant since Mark Moore's time, 2016 to the current date. I don't know if the people that didn't get to go after the second call this year, if they'll have some leniency on that, where they might award them first versus somebody else. I don't know if they'll take that $1 million and maybe give you a quarter of it or half of it. I don't know how it's going to play out.
Right. Very good.
So, other than that, that's all I have for you. You don't have anything for me.
Just an update. I know we had some discussions last time about replacing a culvert pipe out east of town, and I had asked you to do some research on that area, determine if we had the appropriate size culverts. What was your conclusion there?
We ended up finding that at today's standards, that it was undersized. So the pipe that was in there was a 15. It worked on a regular norm event, regular rain event, but it did not. It plugged up quicker because of the hydraulics on a heavy rain, okay, which is something we can't control. So we ended up taking a 24 out there, putting in a 24. So I believe that project is complete.
All right, very good. I appreciate the update. You guys have anything else?
I don't.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Tom.
Sheriff.
Good morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
I emailed this to you, but I want to give you a printed copy as well. Make sure you have it. So preparing for budget for next year, I reached out to Southern Health Partners, our medical provider to jail. We have a yearly contract with them. It expires September 30th and we use on October 1st. Going to have a 4% increase for next year. And so I'm asking you to approve this with them, if you will. It's the original contract. We want to keep Southern Health Partners in our facility. We're extremely happy with them. They do an excellent job. I'm just asking you to approve this addendum to the contract.
I don't either. From the last couple of years, I think everything's been going well.
It's been going really well. Yeah, we're happy with them.
I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna hit the tourism topic next, the cell phone stipend. I don't think Eric is here, so Gabe, you wanna fill us in on that discussion that we started last meeting?
Yeah, so met with Eric. We took Josh with me, bring the operation there from IT. So, the cell phone that we thought was there, it was actually as her cell phone. So her recommendation, which she was trying to get at, but I just don't think we were all understanding, but she was wanting to switch that from being a fully reimbursed cell phone to a $40 a month stipend. Since she does use it for personal use too, and she felt that that was the right thing to do. And so I agreed, but I thought it was too. We looked at taking their phone lines that they have there now. We can convert them to DIDs at 15 cents a month. And then we looked at some really cool options where they can switch to office phones, and it's not gonna cost anything because it's all hosted here locally at the county. We already have the capability. So if we were to, currently it's about $123 a month is what they spend between the cell phone and phone lines. If we do the 2 stipends and convert their lines over to these DIDs, it's going to be $80 a month. So we're saving $43 a month by doing the 2 stipends and moving to this right there. So my recommendation would be to approve the 2 stipends since they do a lot after hours. So approve the 2 stipends for the cell phone reimbursement. And then IT's already working on it as far as converting the lines over.
That sounds great. I appreciate you meeting them and doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, Brian?
I don't. Thanks, Gabe.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve that plan.
I say,
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right. Doug Westerfeld, area plan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Derek.
I had sent you contract with HWC Engineering. I'm here to get your blessing to move forward with HWC. This is for the comprehensive plan. We're in a grant. We're in the process of trying to receive a grant, the application process of receiving a grant. And so we went through a scoring committee, went through and reviewed other engineering firms, and this is the firm that we decided to go with. So I'm here to ask for your blessing. Once it's approved, then we'll sign the contract once the grants.
What was the grant? I know it's an Oak grant, but what was that grant?
60,000.
60,000.
Right.
It'd be about half this
Right.
total contract.
Correct. Yeah, this contract's for 115.
Correct.
Yeah, and that other grant's for 60,000. So we would have to ask the county for the difference.
and I think the original plan.
We did.
Because the funds are really there.
And just to give you guys more background info on this as well, as far as the proposals that were available from HWC, there were like 3 different tiers, if you will, on the process. The low tier, if I remember right, was like 80,000.
Yes.
The biggest issue with the $80,000 plan was that, for me, was that the breakout sessions or the focus groups, it was just one big focus group where you had different representatives from different segments of the community all in a room together at one time talking. That didn't seem overly productive to me. It seemed like it was kind of defeating the purpose of what exactly we were trying to look at here with this comp plan review. When you jumped up to the 115, that's where you got the individual focus groups, where you had more detail. They were going out and actually meeting with the public more than what we have now, than what we would have had in the $80,000 one. The next one I think is 140,000. Okay. And there was a lot more work that they were doing that I think Doug in this case is able to do and the committee can do. And so you're getting the same focus group work, and the 120 is what you would have been in 140, but there was additional stuff that HWC would be doing that Doug and the rest of that committee can hop on board to help accomplish. So that was how we ended up on this $115,000 comp plan. Was we felt like we were getting the most reward for what we had.
You described it perfectly.
You want to reiterate? Is that good?
No, that's good. Like up there, so the phase 2 on the 115,000 on the option 2, which is what we decided. There's like 8 focus group meetings, which with the other there's not. There's just like the one group meeting, and then also included 2 public workshops as well. So you're able to dig a little bit in deeper in with what the community wants. And then if you bumped up to the 140, phase 2 is the same. There there wasn't any different. It's just at the end of the project, there's more stuff that we'll have to do instead of having HWC do it.
Yeah, I like that. It still fits.
Have you talked to any of the other municipalities about any of their ordinance review or anything like that?
I have not.
Because there is an option on this that if some of the other municipalities would like to have their ordinances reviewed, they can potentially get on this.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the town. I have.
Okay.
I do have. I had a meeting Friday with one of the towns or incorporated towns, and they already think that they could do that. St. Paul is also actually in the process of doing it. I still have to speak with. I haven't talked with Brian at Westport yet.
And they would be able to sign a contract with HWC so that they can have their own separate portion of the comp plan that is more specifically addressing their needs in those incorporated communities. So I think there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah, that'll open them up to some more opportunities that right now they don't have.
Yep.
Anything else for me?
I don't think so. So once we hear from Okra on the grant, then we can come back and sign this.
Yep.
Okay. I have a meeting scheduled Friday, is that right? To meet with Okra to talk.
It's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday,
Yeah.
right. It's on my calendar. Wednesday. I had suggested Friday.
Yes.
Thanks. To talk with Okra, one of their new requirements is that I have to discuss some of the points with Decatur County. And that's like the first step in the process. So we've been talking about what exactly that conversation will be. But what we're at so far in that process from Okra. Sean Durbin called me. He's next on the agenda. He called me this morning. He will not be able to be here today. He's under the weather. He'll be here at the next meeting to address the same topic. Moving on to Judge Day, the opioid relief funds.
Good morning.
Morning, Judge.
All I am asking for today is signatures on an MOU pertaining to the opioid settlement funds to granted back in January, I think. This is our substance abuse programming in the county. That was being done by an outfit called Hickory Recovery Services. They were bringing clinicians to classroom that we have set up for services. All the classes were being done in our facility, which was a big benefit for services. They like that. They were doing the programming basically for what insurance they could collect, Medicaid, private insurance, but they were not billing any of our individuals that we were referring to them from probation, in corrections, wellness court. And that we were very happy with that and wanted to continue that. Last year, they approached court services and said, we just can't financially do that. We're not collecting enough to bring everything to you like this. It was too good to be true, basically. So that's what we approached you in January with money that we already had on deposit and asked to supplement them. And you agreed to do that. The only thing we wanted to do with Hickory is sign an agreement saying this is not payment for past services, so don't take up 60,000 and send us a receipt and pull out. And then we wanted it to be for a year. They had talked about that, that yes, we'll do it for another year. Get that line for opioid funds. They had really signed the agreement, and this went on. I saw numerous emails from Abby and Hickory. They just never would come across with an agreement. So they continue to provide the services, but they haven't gotten any money. The clinicians that are doing the programming for Hickory they're leaving Hickory and they're going with an outfit called Ascension, Recovery Services. We have been in contact with Ascension to see if they would just do the same deal as Hickory was about to do and wouldn't. They said yes, and they immediately provided us with an overview. You should have that. Mr. Smith has looked at it. I've looked at it. We have tweaked it a little bit to make sure it's very clear. This is payment, the 60,000 is payment for services going forward, not backward. It is in the agreement that pay them 30,000 up front because they are starting from, they're not able to collect from insurance. That's a process that takes time before they start collecting. So we were okay with that. The balance of the 30,000 would be paid over the next 11 months. So this would start August 1st, and they would provide the same clinicians, the same services, the same agreement that we hope we were going to have with Hickory. It's still a good deal for everyone. No one is required to pay anything out of pocket other than a copay if the private insurance calls for that. If they have no insurance, no Medicaid, they still won't be turned down. They'll be provided substance use treatment with this supplement. So that's always been an issue with programming, is the cost of it. This eliminates that. It's seamless for them. And all these folks are coming directly to court services for their meetings. So court services to monitor. Yes, they're here doing what they're supposed to do. And so it's a win-win for the county. It doesn't cost the county anything. It's opioid money. So I'm just asking to sign off on that. So you and he actually, in the delay in trying to get Hickory's MOU, we bought ourselves up 6 months. So we're happy to do it. That's all.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd entertain, do you have a document that we need to sign?
Mr. Benton, I have one.
Didn't bring a hard copy.
Yes.
So I didn't.
Chad reviewed, advised that there was no issues, from language or anything. That's it. I would make a motion that we sign the contract going forward with Ascension.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have the COVID Gen X Economic Development Agreement discussion. Mike?
We'll run it on the agenda.
Yeah, actually, that's the PowerPoint there.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Wayne DeLong, Regina Stiller here on the Pavia Solar Project. Also with me this morning, Mr. Donnie DeCastro, Vice President of Development, Jenny Hartley, somewhere in here, Director of Community Relations, as well as our attorney team, Matthew Newman, certainly Mr. Huckleby, sort of helps us as well on community relations. We do have a paper copy of the presentation, so you don't need to pivot back and forth to save you that trouble. But with that, we're here, as you indicated, to speak about our economic development agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
The handout that you have, we provide extra copies for record keeping that does match the PowerPoint that is provided here. So a quick summary, certainly obviously here this morning, we appreciate the time to bring information forward, more specifically to the economic development agreement. As you are certainly acutely aware that this project filed in August of last year. Certainly have had a few interactions with the Board of Zoning, many conversations with the community, several conversations with elected and appointed officials, representatives of the county specific to the project. All these dates that are on the screen lead to that specific timeline. I also wanted to mention that online is Rustin Terrius. He is with our attorney team. His specialty is the economic development agreement, and he can speak in great detail as to that topic. So again, a quick summary. We're here this morning to revisit everything we've done, but certainly one of the major things that we have focused on, as you're aware, are several agreements. As zoning and land use work goes in Indiana, you have the opportunity for zoning commitments if you so choose. This actually brings forward more detail and more responsibility and authority to the county, structuring these topics. So you can walk through each one of the agreements if you would like. Again, we're here this morning to speak to the economic development agreement in particular. Certainly, the rest of these agreements, the decommissioning within your ordinance, roadway usage agreement, also important fire safety, very important. Our master agricultural preservation agreement, which is the agreement that speaks to many different facets of testing, monitoring, dual use, agrivoltaics, all very important components. Of course, we're here to speak about economic development agreement in particular. Introducing here Donnie DeCastro to walk through some of the summary details.
Morning, Commissioners. Good to see you again. Thanks for taking the time to let us come up here and speak with you. Before I go into the Senate Enrollment Act 1, I would like to just do a quick sound check to make sure, Kyle, you can hear us and be heard.
Thank you, Donnie. I can hear you
Yes.
very well. If you can
Okay.
hear me, that's great.
We sure can. Thank you very much. Kyle will be speaking in just a few moments about some of the particular numbers offered in the Economic Development Agreement. But first, in a matter of context, it's important to understand the Senate Enrollment Act that was passed this year, a bill championed by Governor Braun, formerly known as Senate Bill 1, and it has implications to the Economic Development Agreement that COGIA will offer. It is a historic piece of legislation that was passed in an Enrollment Act 1. It is a complete overhaul of the property tax system in Indiana. So it offers material impacts to county finances, as well as the county's ability to collect property tax revenues. In essence, I'll give you the layman's terms. Property taxes for large projects such as ours, the equipment can be depreciated. And as that equipment is depreciated, we have to claim less on our books of the value of that equipment. Before Senate Enrollment Act 1, there was a 30% floor of depreciation. We could not
depreciate our equipment, or not just solar projects, but any major project, could not depreciate the value of its equipment below 30%. Senate Enrollment Act 1 allows after year 5 to, in effect, be able to depreciate the value of that equipment to zero. Equipment has no value, there is no tax to be collected on it. So in short terms, that could be read as good news for companies, developers like mine. If I can depreciate my equipment all the way to zero, I no longer have to pay tax. However, that doesn't put a county in an advantageous position because you guys cannot collect those tax dollars. So how will Covia Solar interact with Senate Bill or Senate Enrollment Act number 1? Well, in 2024, in our presentation to the BZA, we refer to the investment that Covia, the tax revenue investment that Covia could provide to Decatur County as a generational opportunity. This was certainly true before SEA 1. With the passage of SEA 1, that lessens the contribution that this project would financially bring to the county. And what we're here to say today is that we are not going to follow the letter of the law. We are here to pledge our commitment to maintaining a 30% depreciation for the county to make sure that you guys receive your property tax revenue. This is something that will, in the long term, be less financially beneficial to us. But we are not here to secure the deal that is solely beneficial to us. We are here to demonstrate our commitment to be a corporate citizen of this county. We're not looking to get a deal that takes advantage of the county. We are looking to get a deal that is fair and mutually benefits both parties. Could this have potential impacts for the future owner operator? It absolutely will. But we are willing to stand by our commitment to the county and will maintain that 30% depreciation for it that existed prior to the passage of SEA 1. The significance of us choosing to do this can't be understated. We are guaranteeing the tax revenues that were taken away by this passage of this law in Indiana. Why are we doing that? Again, we want to prove our commitment to the county that we are here in partnership with you. We are here to get a deal that benefits both of us. We understand that our project will cause changes to this county. We are acutely aware of that and want to pledge our commitment. This financial package is a tangible, measurable demonstration of our commitment to this county. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle, and Kyle will run through some of the particulars of the economic development agreement. Yeah, Kyle, we're on 3 different impacts. Can you see the screen?
Perfect. Thanks, Donnie. I cannot see the screen, but I think we're ready enough that we can navigate this well, despite that. Good morning, commissioners. Kyle Russiteritz with Denton's, joined by my partner in the room, Matt Newman. Donnie and Wayne asked me to speak about the anticipated economic impact of the project, most notably those items that will be memorialized in an economic development agreement. Appreciate to the commissioners allowing me to participate virtually this morning. There are 3 different financial impacts that I would like to highlight that will be memorialized in the economic development agreement. The first being EDA payments, economic development agreement payments. The second being what we'll call for this morning SEA 1 shortfall payments, which are termed additional payments in the economic development agreement. And then, of course, the impact number 3 are the property tax payments for the life of the project as well. Transitioning to the next slide, they're going to hand to the attorney to offer caveats and disclaimers, but really the items that I want to highlight for you is that the project is excited and ready to be offering estimates of significant value with respect to its total investment in the project. The investment in phase one being $336 million minimum, and the investment in phase two being $350 million minimum. That is just for the improvements, the physical improvements, including solar panels, substation, et cetera, with respect to the solar project. That is above and beyond any investment in real property improvements. The estimates that I'm going to offer you today assume a few other items called out on the slide, including a constant tax rate over the project, a property tax abatement from the county council that I will speak to in a few moments. And of course, as the project size may fluctuate, the investment may fluctuate, these numbers may change as well. We hope as costs increase that will result in additional investment as well as additional property tax dollars or SCA 1 shortfall dollars over the life of the project. And really just to put a bow on the numbers, the second to last bullet point, we have assumed a 30-year life, project life for our estimates here, we've offered an asterisk on each slide where we can identify where some of these numbers may fluctuate if certain things change, tax rates or investment or otherwise. So let's focus then on economic development agreement payments. The economic development agreement payments that the project is offering per phase are $8 million for phase one and $8.5 million for phase two, assuming that in those investment numbers that I just offered to you. What we're going to do in the economic development agreement is offer those payments in a certain dollar per $1 million of investment. So if that ultimate investment changes, perhaps it lowers or more importantly increases, that the county will benefit from those changes, so that if the project size for phase one, for example, exceeds $336 million, there will be additional economic development dollars paid by each phase of the project. The reason why the project can offer these tremendous economic development agreement payments would be to share in the benefits of any tax deduction, tax abatement that the county council would offer. The project intends to formally request a 10-year 100% property tax abatement from the council, and we want to share with the county the benefits of those savings. And so these $8 million or $8.5 million, depending on the phase payments, would actually be front loaded for the project. They'd be paid in 5 equal installments beginning after COD, the first year after what's called commercial operations of the project, and then following in 4 equal payments after that. I want to move to impact 2 for you this morning, SCA 1 shortfall. So as Donnie elaborated, the change in law would allow projects like Cobia Solar to depreciate its assets down to a significant floor, potentially as low as $0. And so what we want to do, the project wants to offer what we're terming shortfall payments. What's the difference between what the ultimate assessment is allowed by state law and what the project is willing to contractually obligate itself to the county? And to make up that shortfall, that is a result of SCA 1 becoming law just a few months ago. And so where we're calculating those SCA 1 shortfall payments, we think that those could equate to upwards of $18 million for phase 1, $19 million for phase 2 over the life of the project after an abatement rolls off. So as shown on the slide, it's almost $1 million. It's around $900,000 to $950,000 annually from years 11 through, as we've projected here, year 30, but it would be for the life of the project. So if this project is 35 years, 40 years, 45 years, perhaps even longer, the project will continue to pay those shortfall payments. So under state law, those payments would not be required because of the change from a 30% floor to a 0 or perhaps single digit floor. You'll see in the footnote there, we've been assuming about a 5% floor. We're waiting on some instruction from the Department of Local Government Finance, the DLGF, to offer what that ultimate floor would be. But for these estimates, we're assuming a 5% floor as opposed to a 0% floor, because we do think the state legislature will ask for that guidance there. So again, about almost $1 million per phase, almost $2 million per phase in these SCA shortfall payments. Donnie, if we can move to impact number 3 here. There's 3 types of property tax payments that the project will continue to pay, regardless of the economic development agreements, regardless of the SEA shortfall payments, and regardless of the tax abatement. The first category of that is the taxes on the land. So the land after construction of the project is going to experience a tremendous increase in its assessment. It's going to be assessed from agricultural land to solar land, and state legislature a handful of years ago established an increased assessment for land that's included in solar projects. We estimate over the life of the phases of this project, it equates to a $4 million of taxes that the project might pay in just land taxes. There's also a second, what I'll call bucket or type of taxes. This is the real property improvements. So many of those in the room might know that fencing, for example, there's going to be a fence along the perimeter of this solar project for safety reasons, and that will be assessed as what's called real property improvements by the local Decatur County assessor, and we expect around $3 million of additional taxes paid over the life of the project there for those real property improvements. And then the personal property taxes, we estimate another $3 to $4 million there of personal property taxes over the life of the project. That does assume that 5% floor. And really that the personal property and that SCA1 shortfall payments, they're going to interact with each other. And what we want to make sure is that the total of the SCA1 shortfall payments and the total of the personal property tax payments, when they sum together, they equal what would have been paid if the state law had not changed to eliminate that 30% floor. So as Donnie said, we want to continue to make that commitment, that promise that existed just a mere 2 or 3 months ago, but the project has been touting as a benefit to this county for over a year now. We want to make sure that the total payments paid by the project, whether SCA1 shortfall payments or personal property taxes, are met at that 30% floor. And really phase 2, the impact 3 slide shows the phase 2 payments here, $5 million, another $5 million in real property payments, another $5 million in personal property taxes. Those numbers I just offered were just phase 1. These are phase 2 payments. And I think the next slide here, next 2 slides are going to give a nice summary. Donnie, I'm on the total economic impact under the EDA table. Really, again, summary, $8 million, $8.5 million of EDA payments, almost $19 million of shortfall payments. Total economic impact. I want to highlight there down at the bottom. We really want to make sure over $36 million, over $39 million of total payments under this economic development agreement if the project is constructed by phase and we hit those over $300 million of investment by phase. The next slide is a graphic depiction over annual years. You're going to see a lot of those payments are front loaded. Those are going to be your economic development agreement payments, right? Over $16 million of economic development payments for a project that would exceed $650 million of investment. Those economic development agreement payments would not be seen without a county that is accepting of a project's of investment, accepting of an economic development agreement that includes these sort of benefits, and a council that we hope is supportive of a property tax abatement on the solar improvements, so that we can make those significant upfront payments. That little dip there in years 6 through 10, those are the period where the tax abatement would occur in those later years, but the economic development agreement payments would be paid, and then that real great spike in year 11, and then 11 through the remainder of the life of the project. Again, a 30-year project life assumed just for ease of slide deck here today, but really, the life of the project could be longer than that. And so we've been working to memorialize these items, this over $75 million of total economic impact, just memorialized in an economic development agreement. There'll be additional economic impact, including payments to landowners, the road use, the decommissioning agreement, providing that security to the county here for the project's road use. Want to transition specifically to just a few more points here, particularly about the economic development agreement key terms. We've spent a great deal of time negotiating with the county's legal and tax advisors, using a form that the legal tax advisors provided, and we really cannot discount the great, tremendous help of Barnes and Thornburg, Baker Tilly, as well as the economic development director, Brian Robbins, having really just a collaborative approach to negotiating these current terms, making sure the county is really protected by the economic development and some of those items that we've shared with you today. Again, just to summarize before I hand it back to Donnie and Wayne, EDA payments made in those first 5-year installments equal phase, those SCA 1 shortfall payments commencing in year 11 after the abatement would roll off for the remainder of the life of the project. Those land taxes, real property improvement taxes, any personal property taxes that are paid by the project for the life of the project. And again, we look forward to a discussion with the council about a tax abatement from years 1 through 10. And that really is a key assumption in the numbers offered here today. Last slide, that I'll offer, again, these last key terms. We provided both future changes in law and modified project size and investment. Your advisors have done a great job to review language we've suggested with respect to how changes in law or project size might fluctuate. And a lot of the figures or concepts incorporated in the economic development agreement provide that flexibility. So if the project size increases, let's say this becomes a $700 million investment, $800 million investment, your economic development agreement payments or your SCA 1 shortfall payments, they're going to scale upwards as well. They're going to be increasing upwards as well. And as we've offered a road use agreement, a decommissioning agreement, to make sure that those are supplemental agreements tied in with the economic development agreement, and the forms of which will be brought back to this Board of Commissioners and voted on before you after those are in final form. And of course, the project, which is like any other project in the state of Indiana, but we really want to make sure that the county's legal and other advisory expenses are paid. The project many months ago signed a reimbursement agreement to make sure that those expenses would be paid, but those are memorialized again in an economic development agreement before you today. So again, I want to thank Rick Hall, Hannah Glendenning, Brian Robbins, Matt Eckerly, your advisors, really champion your efforts here before you to memorialize in this economic development agreement. We look forward to coming back before you on another day to talk more specifically about that economic development agreement, but we appreciate your time and allowing me to speak about the property tax benefits of the project. Donnie and Wayne, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Appreciate it. One final point I'd like to add is that the economic implications of SCA 1 affect many different types of property taxes. And so this is far-reaching. It will have an effect on the amount of revenue that the county has. We believe that this project can help supplement some of that shortfall that will invariably be coming your way in the future. Wayne and I are both here to answer any questions you might have, or you need specificity on any of the particular points.
Question.
Sure.
What's the source that you're using for the solar panels depreciating to zero by year 6?
That's just the value of the solar panel.
Right. Where's the number coming from? Depreciate or potentially could depreciate to zero?
That's from the Senate Enrollment Act 1. We have the ability to appreciate the value.
Because my concern is the decommissioning agreement bond is scaled.
Right.
And so it grows, the amount that the bond is required to be grows over the life of the project, because the panels would have some value in the first decade or so where they could be resold, and that could go against the cost of the decommissioning. My concern is if we're talking about, or just get a little bit more clarification on the actual value of the panels, or what their real value could be, as it could affect the decommissioning agreement.
From a salvage perspective, are you referring? I don't believe that Senate Enrollment Act one would have no value on the assessed value of the
So the depreciation number for this purpose by year 6 is solely a tax basis.
That's my understanding. Yes, that's correct.
When you're talking about the lifespan of the project, it's projected that right now 30 years, but Kyle had discussed the potential of it going up to 40, 45. I would imagine at some point there would have to be reinvestment and replacement of additional panels, those kinds of things. And reviewing the agreement or the draft of the agreement, I didn't see where it was specifically adjusting the investment number based on reinvestment to continue the life of the project.
Yeah, definitely can make sure it's structured that way. I know that the bond is reevaluated every 5 years. So the lifespan of it, so we got a couple of different things we're talking about here, but certainly the lifespan of a panel would be different than its depreciation value versus its assessed value. So panel, I think the warranty's 20 to 25 years, give or take. Certainly the lease that we have in place is a 20-year lease with 4 5-year options. So certainly there's a couple different scenarios here, but certainly you anticipate a project 18 to 20 years out, possibly wanting to retool, repanel. And so making sure the readjustment of depreciation aligns with that retooling is very important. It's a very important point you're bringing up. But yeah, that's something to be make sure.
Because that would take the investment, the initial investment numbers up tremendously.
Correct.
And I just want to jump in here with respect to reinvestment. So if the project were to reinvest assets into the community, those reinvest assets would not enjoy the benefit of that reduced investment. They would still need to pay property taxes based off of the non-depreciated asset in year 1, and then follow a similar depreciation down. So if we apply a federal depreciation maker schedule like we are for this initial investment, it would follow that investment down, and then it would hit a floor, whatever the whatever the floor is at the time of that reinvestment. And so just because an asset maybe changes for the benefit of the project as a whole doesn't mean it can enjoy from a federal tax perspective or a property tax perspective the lower depreciation level that might exist for the remainder of the assets. And so the project, and really, I think if we were to reinvest often you might call that a repowering in certain instances, or maybe an increase in a phase size or something like that, I would anticipate 10, 20, 30 years from now, the project is actually coming back to you to discuss the benefits of that increased abatement right there. So I just wanted to maybe add that color there to the commissioners, that actually a repowering or adjustment of the panels or other improvements would actually be a benefit to the county, because that would be increased investment and additional tax dollars obligated by the project.
Have you guys ran any figures on what the effect on other property taxes or neighboring properties would be due to the amount of the assessed value increase in the area? What would that do to anyone else in Adams Township?
Yeah, so Baker Tilly did an analysis based upon the 30% floor, and that analysis showed a reduction in property taxes. I don't have that slide in front of me, but I have it on my computer. Adams and Clay Townships both, we did a calculation, I think it's $75,000 assessed value, $150,000 assessed value. There was a reduction. Happy to send that specific slide to you as a follow-up. I can't speak to it offhand, but it's Yeah, I don't want to guess the number. It's nominal, but it's meaningful.
All of these obligations are transferable to the eventual operator, correct?
Yes, correct.
And the payments go to the county, to Decatur County, correct?
That's not the agreement we set.
So even if there was some type of annexation, the payments are still to Decatur County.
That's how it's been done in other jurisdictions. I think making sure the language reflects that is appropriate or as it should be appropriate.
You guys have questions?
No.
I know leading up to this meeting, there were discussions with Baker Tilly about running final numbers because some of those were adjusted in the last week or so. We don't have that analysis yet. My recommendation today would be to schedule this for the August 4th meeting prior to the BZA meeting so that we can have a utility analysis and we can have a final draft of the EDA.
Do we have an estimate on the road use agreement, the other two agreements will be available to us?
I think that we will present those
End of the week.
yeah, at the end of the week.
And all of these agreements are contingent on the BZA vote, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Decommission, absolutely. Road use agreement and decommission.
Anything else, guys? Any comments from anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're just after 9 o'clock, so we can do the Service C resolution for the Oprah grant. Thank you, guys.
Good morning.
Good.
As we discussed earlier, the county is applying to Oprah for a comprehensive planning grant. So two components to that grant. One, we are required to hold a public hearing to get any public comments. So I'll go ahead and jump into that, read the required language. If anybody has any comments or questions after that, we can take those. So on or about August 15th, 2025, Decatur County intends to apply to the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs for a grant from the State Community Development Block Grant Program. This program is funded by Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. These funds are to be used for a community development planning project that will include the following activities: completion of a comprehensive plan. The total amount of CDBG funds to be requested will be $60,000. The amount of CDBG funds proposed to be used for activities that will benefit low to moderate income persons is $34,668, or 57.78% of the request. The county also proposes to spend $62,000, or 50.8% of the total project cost in non-CDBG funds on the project. I do need to note for my minutes that the newspaper had a typo and had that number as 72,000, so it is actually 62,000. And these funds will be pulled from the Build Decatur County Fund in the edit plan. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide interested parties an opportunity to express their views on this funded project. Comments, questions?
Thank you. I appreciate your help on the project.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're successful.
Yeah.
Any other comment? I don't. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we can close the public hearing. The next piece of it is there is a required resolution. The resolution does two things. It authorizes the county to apply for the project, and then again commits those local match funds.
Very good.
Do you have?
I have the resolution on paper. I'll copy it.
Yep.
Get back to you. Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing application submission for a local match commitment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. I realized I had accidentally skipped over the courthouse south parking lot topic on the agenda. We've had some discussion about looking at resurfacing the south parking lot while the other construction was going on around the courthouse. We received a bid from Shooty and O'Mara for $30,295.80. We received a bid from Pro Asphalt in the amount of $35,600.85. And I had reached out as well to Kevin Krem with Krem Paving. He was not able to bid the project. So just have discussions, gentlemen, if you want to proceed with that project. At this time, if you don't, we can disregard the bids.
I personally think it's be nice to do that. It needs it. The rest of the square is being ramped up.
I had a conversation with Brad and we talked about this bid and he said it would save us 20% approximately, maybe a little more, doing it, incorporating that with the paving of the street. If we do it all at the same time, the equipment's there. And then I asked him, does it need it? You know what? And he in his thought process, it maybe not necessarily immediately, but it is going to need it in a couple of years. And he feels like this is a savings for us. Take care of it now while the equipment's here and while they're available.
Inevitably, it's kind of where it's going. Yeah,
You will have to do it.
we're gonna have to do it. It's gonna cost more later, and so we're gonna save money by doing that now because they're already here.
Yes.
Is this the actual south side of the courthouse? A lot behind it.
It's the one directly connected to the south end of the courthouse. Yep. And I mean, it's roughly, if you look at what the savings is, if we were to move forward, the 30,095 versus the 35,610. $5,000 savings there is not quite 20%. But it's a good savings. Danny, when I was looking at the budget, since I see you back there, Cume Cap courthouse has $150,000 in it. It looks like $45,672 has been spent with almost 71% left in that line. Do you see a problem with using that?
No, if it's in there.
Yep.
That's what budgeted for you guys to use. I don't think that's part of the courthouse.
Yes.
So that would be my proposal, that if we were to proceed forward with it, that we use the Cume Cap courthouse line to pay for it.
I would make a motion that we move forward with it.
The studio mayor.
I do have a question. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
milling and,
Yes.
or is that just an overlay?
Yeah, so it's milled 2 inches and then a piece of this overlay.
I just didn't want them coming there and put a couple inches of asphalt down.
No.
You know,
Yeah, they would mill it down and then resurface it and then put down new parking lines, crosswalk lines for the entire area.
no pushback from city. Thank you.
So the motion was to accept the Shooty O'Mara.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Approved. All right, up next is the Baker Financial Review. Baker Tilly Financial Review. Sorry, Paige. Welcome.
Thank you. Lots of copies.
Thank you. Paige.
Thank you. Oops.
Good morning, Kate Stanton with Baker Tilly. Oh, I do have other.
We have some council members.
Oh, yeah, I have actually have plenty of copies. I have even more under my chair. If you need more.
It's a good problem to have to.
Yeah, it is. All right. So yes, we have this draft financial plan. I'm going to do a brief, hopefully, brief overview. There's lots of moving parts with the Senate and roll that go on, obviously. And, you know, we're still trying to kind of digest all of this legislation. So this is a draft. We're going to update things as we get additional information. So I'm going to start on page 1, the executive summary. And I'm not going to read this for a word, but I am going to just kind of hit the highlights. So first off, you know, we recommend that, especially in your general fund, you don't end the year with cash reserves less than 15% of what you spend. You have averaged over the last 3 years 50%, which is very strong, very stable. That's a 6 months cash reserve. And as you know, cash reserve should not be used for recurring costs such as payroll and insurance. It's best used for one-time purchases like capital outlays or projects. So as we get into this, now we're going to start talking about the impact of the new legislation. As you heard in the previous presentation, it is going to impact your revenues. So at the bottom of page 1 is where we start talking about net assessed value. So the legislation modifies homestead deductions. There's a lot of modifications there. It introduces additional credits for residential homestead properties. It provides deductions for 2% properties. This is important because we have not had deductions for 2% properties in the past. So 2% properties would be agricultural land, long-term care facilities, and residential rental properties. These deductions are going to be phased in over the next 6 years. Also increases the de minimis exemption threshold for business personal property. So right now it's at 80,000. That increases to 2 million. So a business personal property valued at less than 2 million would be exempt. And then it exempts the new business personal property investments from the 38% depreciation floor, which was mentioned in a previous presentation this morning. So what does this do to the county's net assessed value? We anticipate that at minimum, it's going to slow the growth in your net assessed value. In some cases, it will reduce your net assessed value. It's yet to be determined what the exact impacts are. I know Baker Tilly is building a model to try to incorporate all of these various changes and what that's going to do to net assessed value, property tax collections, and also your tax rates. But as you know, just as a general statement, as net assessed values go down, or even if they don't increase like you've seen in the past, your property tax rates might start to rise. And whenever we get increases in tax rates, we see more circuit breaker credits issued to taxpayers, which would be a direct reduction of the property tax revenue that you receive. And we do have some estimates, some early estimates of what that might do to the county. So now I'm on page 2, maximum levy growth. So you're just like every other county in the state, you get a small amount of growth on your property tax levy each year. That's called a maximum levy growth quotient. That growth was capped to 4% in 24, 25, and now with Senate Enrolled Act 1, it's capped again in 2026 to 4%. Had it not been capped by the legislature, we probably would have seen maybe a 5.5 or a 5.6%. Now, 2027, we go back to how it's been calculated based on the 6-year average of non-farm personal income, and it's capped at 6%, but we don't know what the legislature is going to do for 2027. They could cap it again at 4%, but if they don't, we might be seeing somewhere around in the 5% range for 2027. For 2026, it's 4%. Something else you need to know about this levy growth is starting in 2029 for budget year 2030. If you want any growth to your maximum levy, you will have to have an additional public hearing. So right now, you know that you have an official public hearing and then an adoption. This is going to require one additional step. That doesn't start until 2029 for budget year 2030. Now, property tax revenues. We do have preliminary estimates from the Legislative Services Agency as far as how Decatur County might be impacted by Senate Enrolled Act 1. The impact will start in 2026, and per Legislative Services, you should expect to see a reduction in property tax revenue of $518,000. That reduction, we assume, will increase or grow through 2031. Again, I want to reiterate that this is very preliminary projections that we're receiving from Legislative Services. I know that some other projections have been put out there, but they haven't been made fully public, so I don't know what those other projections are. But Baker Tilly is building out a model. We should have it done, I hope, in about 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll be able to provide some additional estimates for you. I think this plan though lays out enough information you need for your 2026 budget. Moving on to local income tax. So that whole structure is changing. It terminates what we know today as the current local income tax structure, except for special purpose local income tax, which Decatur County does have. You have a special purpose local income tax that was created just for your county. So that will not be eliminated, but everything else will. You currently have lit certified shares that goes in your general fund, lit public safety, lit economic development. Those will expire at the end of 2027. In its place, you are going to have the option, the council actually will have the option of establishing a county general services lit up to a 1.2% rate. The county council will also have the option of establishing a fire protection and EMS local income tax that's distributed to fire districts, fire territories, municipal fire departments, and at the county council's discretion can also go to township fire departments and volunteer fire departments. Note that none of that really goes directly to the county. This is for the providers of those services. The county will also have the option of establishing a non-municipal local income tax, and that would be distributed to townships and libraries primarily, but can also go to airport authorities and sometimes solid waste districts if the council approves that. There's a municipal lit for those municipalities that are under 3,500 population. The county council will also have the authority to establish that. And then municipalities that have a population of 3,500 or more can establish their own local income tax of up to 1.2%. So if you move on to page 3, we have put together 3 different scenarios, so you can see what you could potentially generate under 3 different rate scenarios. This would just be for the county unit of government. So our scenarios here range from a 0.8% lit on up to the max of 1.2%. So 0.8% is in that top box on page 3. We estimate that would generate about $6.4 million. And just for comparison, we're showing you also within that box what we currently generate in 2025 Lit certified shares is 5.1 million, lit public safety, 1.2 million, lit economic development, 1.1 million, and then that special purpose, which is 4.8 million. This is just the amount that's distributed to the county unit only, not to the other units. So if we move to 2028, you get to keep that 4.8 million of lit special purpose, that stays. But now the services that you're currently funding from lit public safety, lit economic development, lit certified shares, that will all have to be funded now from the 6.4 million that will go into your general fund. And if you did a 0.8%, dropping down to the bottom of the page, the 1.2%, the maximum would generate 9.6 million. And that's what we've worked in this report, just as an illustration of here's what your general fund would look like at 9.6 million. Then there's somewhere in between, the 1% is about 8 million. So I know, in 2027, you'll have lots of decisions to make, or the county council will have lots of decisions to make. And by that time, we can maybe pinpoint what rate's going to work best for you. But right now, we just looked at the maximum rate of 1.2.
So on page 2,
Yeah.
You have county services where it's 1.2 is your maximum rate.
Yeah.
You also have an additional, could be a 0.4, 0.2 for
Yeah.
those fire protection EMS and your non-municipal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So those are in addition to the 1.2.
Yes. Let me explain that a
But
little bit.
those go directly to those entities,
Correct.
not to the county.
Correct. Right. So if you would add up all these rates, it adds up to 3%.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. So let me explain that. So the way it works now is that your county has a total lit rate, and I have that in this report. It's 2.45%. So everybody in this county pays 2.45%. Under the new lit structure, it depends on where you live as to how much rate you will pay. If I live in Greensburg, I could potentially pay a different rate than somebody that lives outside of Greensburg. It's going to be a different type of animal here. So yes, if you add these up, they add up to 3%. So here's the deal. The municipalities that are 3,500 or above, they can have their full 1.2% regardless of what you all do. They get that. You get your full 1.2% regardless of what others do. But then the county council is going to have to look at, if you go to the full 1.2, they're going to have to look at what the city is doing, and then they may have to adjust the fire protection and EMS, the non-municipal, and the small municipalities. It's going to come down to somebody's going to get adjusted, or maybe you just don't adopt one of those. But it's very different, very different than what we know. And some of these, like the municipal population, the municipals that are 3,500 and above, that's based on the adjusted gross income of just those people within, we're going to use Greensburg as an example. The smaller municipalities, it's the whole county less the AGI of Greensburg. It's very complex. Let me put it that way. So what I foresee happening is probably towards the end of 2026 or in 2027, there's going to be counties doing an analysis to see, because we're going to have better AGI numbers there, what is going to be the good mix. And it really is going to be a collaborative effort with the other units, because you're going to have units come in and petition you, like the municipalities under 3,500, they have to come in and petition you and ask you for this. The non-municipals, libraries, townships, they have to come in and petition. So you all need to work together and just figure out what is the best lit structure for your county. So page 4 then is where you're at now. I just thought it was important that you see what the rates are right now for your county. So certified shares right now, it's 1.27%. Public safety, 0.25, economic development, 0.25. You do have a property tax relief component, and that is 0.08%. And that gives your taxpayers a credit to their tax bill before the circuit breaker is applied. That's going to get eliminated, and that's what we worry about, because luckily this rate is really pretty low. But when that's removed, there's going to be more people that will likely hit the tax caps, because they won't have this credit anymore. So we need to figure out how that's going to impact your circuit breaker credits. Again, yours is on the relatively low side, so I'm hoping there won't be a major impact. In fact, your circuit breakers are not that substantial right now, which is going to help you as we go through the Senate and Roll Back One, these legislative changes. But I do want to bring that to your attention. And then, of course, the special purpose lit, I think you did that for the jail, is at 0.6%, and you'll be able to retain that. But all these other ones will be retained. So page number 5 is an illustration of kind of where we're at with the net property tax collection. So like if you look at 2025, we estimate that you will collect $8,158,000. You're actually levying higher than that though. You levy 8.3 million, but you don't collect about 174,000 because of those credits that are returned to the taxpayers. But now when we get into 2026, there's going to be additional credits. So what it amounts to is additional circuit breaker credits. So if you look at 2026, we've got kind of, I'm going to call it the normal circuit breaker, the baseline circuit breaker of 180,000. But on top of that, your circuit breakers could go up another 518,000, at least based on preliminary estimates. So look what that does to your actual property tax collection. I'm saying that you'll collect probably about 8.1 this year. In 2026, it's probably going to be closer to 8 million. Not a gigantic impact, but there's no growth there. We're not seeing growth. Moving into 2027, yeah, your net property tax it grows, but only by about 200,000. In 2028, about 150,000. Again, based on preliminary estimates. So I do think that in 2026 you will have less revenue for budget purposes. I'll get into that specifically here in a minute. But I think we need to kind of look forward and just know that we want to try to take a conservative approach just to see how all of this is going to play out, at least for 2026, and know that you could have, I'm going to say, reduced growth in your property tax revenue. So moving on to page number 6, we like this chart because what we're seeing here is growth in net assessed value. That's what really helps circuit breaker credits and tax rates, is growth in assessed value. And you have definitely seen that. The pink bars here is your net assessed value. So your net assessed value has grown 47% over the last 5 years. So 2021, you had about 1.5 billion. Now you're up to 2.2 billion. So that's some really good growth. And look what that did to your tax rate. It reduced your tax rate. Your tax rate has actually decreased by 15% from 2021 through 2025. So your tax rate in 2021 was about 45 cents. It's now 38 cents. And that's really what we like to see. So, you know, I know taxpayers have experienced increase in their property tax bills, but because the assessed value of their homes has increased. It's not because your tax rate. The value of property is driving up those tax bills. Page number 7, just quickly to talk about, again, the local income tax. You will have until October 1st of 2027 to adopt your new local income tax structure. I've already had questions, well, can we adopt it now because of election years and things of that nature? No, the earliest you will be able to adopt is July 1 of 2027, and you will have until October 1st. The units that need to petition you have until July 1st of 2027 to petition you. But I know there should be plenty of discussions. I know in some counties, we are facilitating county-wide discussions already. Like just getting everybody in the county into a room and just talk about this new legislation, how it might impact them, what to expect. So I think that's really what this is going to do, is open up the lines of communication, or it should. Road funding. So House Enrolled Act 1461 reduces the percentage that you are required to put into MVH restricted if you meet the following 2 qualifications. So your average pavement quality, your PACER rating, has to be at a minimum of 6. So in this year, you should have an average road quality rating at a minimum of 6. so that we can be qualified for this next year. And then no more than 15% of your highways and roads are classified as being in failed condition. So if you meet those two qualifications, instead of putting 50% in restricted, you'd only have to put 40% in restricted. However, this doesn't start until July 1 of 2026, so only a half a year. I don't know why they did that. But again, that is helpful. I like that restriction has been moved down because now you have 60% of that that's uninsured. So that's helpful. I'd like to see that restriction completely taken out. And then the other piece of House Enrollment Act 1461, somebody already mentioned here today, that if you're in a county with a population below 50,000, now your match for community crossings is only 20% instead of 25%. So that's good as well. County health funding, something you need to know is that the Indiana General Assembly cut the Health First Indiana funding for the next budget cycle to $80 million. That's down from the $150 million allocated this year. So counties may need to adjust budgets for health services and potentially increase the reliance on property tax dollars for the health services. Decatur County's HFI allocation for 2026 is only $154,000, and that's reduced to, from the $518,000 that you're going to get this year. So that's a pretty big decrease. And I know some health departments were able to hire additional staffing and things of that nature. You'll have to determine if you want to keep those on, because if you do, you're going to have to probably fund them from the health fund that you have, which means a shift of property tax from the general over to the health fund. So there needs to be some decisions made, but this is a pretty big reduction to something that we've had for the last 2 years. Statewide 911, you're kind of in the same boat as a lot of other counties, that the state distributed revenue that you get in just isn't enough to cover your 911 expenses. Right now, I think you're okay, but I do think that probably sometime in the future, you'll have to probably pick up some of those expenses in the general fund. Page 8, this is what I think is going to help you as you go into the 2026 budget. The chart at the bottom is showing you the actual and estimated receipts. So when we talk about balanced budgets, we want you to develop spending plans that match the annual receipts. So we have that here for you in the orange column, 2026 estimated. So it's saying the county general, the estimated receipts are about 12.4 million. That's what you should have as your recurring expense budget in 2026 if you want a balanced budget. And that is down from 2025, which we knew it would be down. 2025 estimated receipts is 13.4 million. So we've got this for each of the major funds, like LIT, economic development, 1.28 million, public safety, 1.2 million, special purpose, 5 million. We have all the other funds listed below. So that should give you some guidelines or some guardrails of where you need the budget for 2026. We do have the future years shown here just so you can see what's happening to the revenues. There are increases, but 2026 we're estimating a decrease. So again, I would say take a cautious approach to budgeting. Don't add a bunch of recurring costs to your budget because you need to be able to sustain those costs going into the future. But I think that on page 8 should give you a pretty good rough idea of where you need to be for your 2026 budget. As we get into the cash flows, you're going to see more detail of those receipts and how we arrived.
And these numbers are reflecting the 1.2 projection, correct?
And starting in 2028, yes.
Right.
Starting in 20, that's why you see that kind of jump up there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so now I'm just going to get into the cash flows, and that starts on page 12. So page 12 is on 2 pages, which is general fund. The rest of the cash flows are only on 1 page. But we have some things highlighted here just to bring your attention to what's going on. So at the top on line 4, we have index number on the left-hand side. Line 4, estimated shortfall from SEA 1 2025. So that starts in 2026. So for the general fund, we're looking at an additional loss on top of what you would already get in circuit breaker of 340,509. And it does ramp up as we phase in those various things at SEA 1. We do know that that's going to ramp up all the way through 2031. And then on line 7, you can just see what the net property tax levy is. So 2025 for general, we anticipate we'll collect about 5.6 million, but it does drop in 2028 to 5.2 million. Then we're also highlighting the lit certified shares on line 14. You see that goes out through 2027, but then it terminates. And in its place is that lit county services of about 9.6 million, and that is at the maximum of 1.2%. I think we just need to, kind of see what you need by the time we get to 2027. It may not be the maximum, but again, that's just what we worked in. Line 20 is those operating receipts we just talked about. So for 2026, total operating receipts, 12.4 million. Now, you can still purchase capital on this fund because you do have some cash reserves that you can use capital on, but for your recurring receipts, you should try to stay within the 12.4 million. Lines 29 and 30 is where we moved those expenses from your lit public safety and your lit economic development, because starting in 2028, you really won't be able to find recurring expenses out of those two funds. So you'll need to budget those things if they're recurring costs. Some of them I think are capital, but if they're recurring costs, you need to budget those out of your general fund starting in 2028. So your revenues go up, but also your expenses, because your expenses on line 32, by the time we get to 2028, we're estimating they'll be about 16.2 million. Now we just filled in a 3% growth. That's our standard growth. We don't have your 2026 budget yet, so we just filled in 3% growth off 25, then 3% on 26, 27, etc. So again, this is just like a baseline analysis. Once you get your 2026 budget, we can pop that into this analysis and see what it looks like. Page 13 is a continuation of the general fund. So if you look on line 47, it says change in fund balance. That's important because if that number is positive, it means you're adding to your cash reserves. So basically you understand your receipts. If it's negative, like starting in 2025, it means that you will utilize cash reserves to fund your budget. Now, it could be because you're purchasing capital. And if that's the case, that's totally fine. You just don't want to be in a budget deficit where you're using cash reserves for recurring costs like payroll, health insurance, utilities, etc. So many of the counties that I've been out talking to, we see this trend where in 26 and 27, yes, you're utilizing cash reserves, but it kind of bounces back when you get to the situation where you could adopt your own list. If it's 1.2%, that's going to help you, because we get to 2028, now you've got a positive net cash flow of almost $7 million. So now page number 14, this is the only graph I'm going to show you. I just want to talk about this one and then we'll skip all the other graphs. But each fund has a corresponding graph, and it's got guardrails. So the dotted red line is the 15% cash reserve, where we say your ending cash balance should not drop below 15%. The green dotted line is the 50%. So that's kind of ideal. You guys have really jumped up there. In 2024, you were above that. And then by the time we get to 2028, you're still where you need to be. What we don't want to see is a downward decline, and it corrects itself. But again, assuming you adopt that 1.2%, it should correct itself. Page 15, now I'm gonna start going fast unless you want details right now. This is already a long meeting, so. Page 15, health fund. So the health fund, because the levy isn't that high compared to general, you're only looking at a $24,000 impact from SEA 1. The cash balances are pretty strong in this fund. In fact, if we didn't have SEA 1, I'd probably say shift some of this property tax over to general to utilize the cash reserves just to get it down to the 50% level. But because of the Health First Indiana, that stuff that's going on, I probably wouldn't make any changes right now. Because it does show that you will start utilizing those reserves as we go out to the future. Pretty strong reserves on that fund. Page 17, this is your reassessment fund. Looks like about a 14,500 reduction due to Senate and rollback 1. This fund also has very strong cash reserves. Really kind of like to utilize those reserves to get it down to a level that's at least 50% below. But again, they're going to be able to withstand this Senate and rollback 1 reduction through their cash reserves. Page 19 is the lit public safety. So here you see where up at the top on line 2, that lit public safety revenue goes away, but also the expenditures we move. Now see that you have a remaining balance. If you do have a remaining balance, we're estimating maybe about $2 million. You can continue to use this fund until it's depleted for the uses that correspond with public safety. We're waiting to see what DLGF says because I guess there's maybe a possibility that you might be able to declare this fund dormant and shift the cash, remaining cash, to the general or rainy day fund. They have not come out and said that, so we're just going to assume that they'll just let you spend until this fund is depleted. Page 21 is your highway fund. And this is where you get that state distribution. Right now, we are assuming that you're going to put 50% in this fund and 50% in the restricted. But if you meet those PACER ratings, obviously that's going to change. We've also assumed the amount that you're restricting will be paid out of the restricted fund. There wasn't budget for it, so we just assumed that the on line 14 that your budget for MPH or your budget for highway is going to be reduced by the amount that you're going to spend out of restricted. It looks like you do that pretty well, like you're utilizing the restricted fund. Page 23 is Park and Rec. So here, Senate and rollback 1, there's almost a $51,000 reduction in revenue. This one is, we basically shifted enough property tax to this fund from the general fund so that you do not have a negative cash flow, because we see where you're utilizing cash reserves for Park and Rec. So I think eventually, if it's not 2026, it'll be 2027. We will need to shift property tax. Looks like we shifted about $200,000 from general to this fund. So keep an eye on that, especially when you're preparing the 2026 budget. I do think you will need to increase the levy on that fund. Page 25 is the statewide 911 fund. You've got a pretty healthy balance in that fund, but if you look on line 11, the change in fund balance, you will start utilizing cash reserves. In fact, in 2024, you had to use about $60,000 in cash reserves to fund the budget. I think it's going to start increasing, probably maybe 2030. You might have to start funding some things out of general if the state distributed revenue doesn't increase. It's been pretty stagnant, to be honest with you. Page 27 is your county-wide 911 fund. I forgot you also have this fund. So you could actually use this fund to help supplement your other fund, but this is the fund where the city pays a portion and the county pays a portion into this fund. So you do have some healthy reserves here and a positive net cash flow. Depending on if this fund is restricted or not, I'm not aware that it is. You could probably help. You could use this fund to help supplement the statewide 911 fund. Page 29 is the LIT Economic Development Fund, kind of the same situation as Public Safety LIT, is that that revenue will go away. We're still showing some interest earnings in 2028, especially if you have $4 million cash balance, you'll probably still be earning interest. But again, you can utilize this fund until it's depleted for the same purposes you're using it for now. And, you know, again, we moved the cost over to general, so you can see how that would affect the general fund. Page 31 is your special purpose jail list, and you do have a debt service that you pay out of this fund. That's on line 13, and it's running about 1.5, 1.6 million for a year. You've got plenty in there to cover your debt service with some left over. So this is looking good, and it doesn't go away with the new list structure, which is also good. Page 33 is your cumulative bridge fund. There's not a lot of property tax levy that comes into this fund, but we are showing about a $44,000 loss due to Senate Rollback 1. This is the fund that counties always ask me, hey, can we increase the property tax rate on this fund? You absolutely can, but you'll have to reduce the rate on another control fund like health, reassessment, general fund. So it really doesn't benefit you to increase the rate on it. Moving on to human capital development. So we're looking at about a $44,000 loss on that fund as well. You generate about $880,000 at least in 2025. In the future years, it's going to drop to around $800,000. And this fund, again, has a pretty good cash balance. If you have any one-time capital outlays or purchases that you need to do, you can definitely do it out of this fund. Page 37, local road and street. This fund, you have your wheel tax distribution going into this fund, but the county wheel tax distribution. So you're getting about 1.9 million in this fund. You've got a pretty healthy cash reserve. The State Board of Accounts have released something recently that said you can actually use this fund for personal services, which in the past you haven't been able to do that. So keep that in mind. If you need to pay for salaries out of this fund, you are able to do so as long as it's not administrative salaries. It has to be salaries of people that are actually doing road work and maintenance. Page 39 is the restricted portion of the highway fund. So 50% of the state distributing is going into this fund, and we're just assuming that you'll spend that same amount going forward, or roughly the same amount going forward. We do have some good reserves again for projects or whatever you need to do. A lot of counties use that for community crossings actually. Okay, so the rest of this is just supplemental schedules. I would like to point out on page 44. That's the comparison of your budget to actual. So you can see how much of the budget you typically spend. This county in 2024 at the bottom of page 44, in the county general fund spent about 91% of your budget. We'd really like to see that closer to 95 to 100%, just because that would mean that it's a very accurate budget, but it's good that you're not spending over your budget. So that's good as well. So if you just are curious, you know, how you're kind of performing against your budget, this is a good thing to look at to determine that. And then the last schedule, well, it's not the last, but we're getting close, I promise. Page 45, schedule of outstanding debt. I like to have this all in one place. You only have 3 debt issues outstanding right now. So this just gives you an idea of when they mature, what each of the debt items are. And then we've just got some comparative information at the end, starting on page 46. And I just noticed that these charts did not turn out very well. So it's not quite helpful. I will check.
My assumption is 46 and 48, those are the same counties. But,
Yes, they are the same counties.
Let me.
Yeah. On your copy, it might be like this also. We'll have to
Get
check-
your copies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will fix it. I promise on the next iteration, but this isn't going to be very much good. 48 looks like it came out okay, and that's your property tax levy. So I apologize for that. I don't know why the county names did not print out, but we'll get that fixed. And it looks like page 49 printed out correctly as well, which is the net assessed value. So Bartholomew County is definitely an outlier, but you're kind of close to it. I'll get that fixed. So I think for you, this should be very helpful information for your 2026 budget. We will continue working on our property tax database model because we want to get you some more accurate estimates of what's going to happen to your assessed values, your property tax rates, and your circuit breaker credit. So again, as soon as we get that complete, we will update this and provide that. We'll also drop in your 2026 budget as well. But the revenues in here should be pretty good for 2026. So should help you, work through that process. Any questions? I know that was a long report. Thank you for your patience.
I think that I was going to still have to look at that a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Before we have any questions.
Totally understand. Completely understand.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Don with RDC. Morning, Don.
Morning. The redevelopment commission in April received a request from the Greensburg Decatur County Economic Development Board to provide some funding for their market needs, their housing market study and needs analysis. We are agreeable with providing partial funding of that study, but in order to do that, we must amend our current economic development plan. We did decide in May to amend that plan. It went to the Area Plan Commission the first of this month. They approved that amendment. And now we are here to request that you also approve that Area Plan Commission order. If you approve that Plan Commission order, we will have a public hearing, our August 20th meeting. And after that hearing, depending on what the hearing brings, then we could officially provide some financing for that study. That's very short discussion. Do you have any questions?
The housing study, was that the one that was discussed through the EDC?
Yeah.
And so they're looking at going through all of Decatur County and seeing basically inventory what we have available, what we potentially have needs for.
Yeah.
This was also the same housing study that when we were looking at the comp plan, something that can really help supplement the comprehensive plan, because some of that information can be incorporated into online.
Yes, I knew we talked about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm in full support of your amendment. I think that's a great idea so that we can address potential issues or needs that we have. Do you have a copy of it, or do you need us to actually sign off on anything, or just?
Yeah, I had sent. I do have a copy of the.
Points for use facility. Something. I think that's
If not, I have a copy here.
perfect.
All it really says is we amends our current economic development plan to allow us to provide funding, because our current plan says nothing about a house.
Right.
Yeah, so whereas on May 21st, 2025, the commission adopted a resolution amending the area resolution for the purpose of amending the area resolution and the original plan to add the funding of a housing study to be conducted by the Greensburg Decatur County Economic Development Corporation as further set forth in the fourth amended Fourth Amendment to Economic Development Plan attached thereto as Exhibit A to the original area. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the change plan.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
All right, up next, Fair Committee President Kevin Kreitz.
Good morning. I've got a agreement with Lures Ideal Rides for the next 3 years. Fair dates already established for 26, 27, and 28. And I just need commissioners sign it, email it, and send it back to them.
And no issues with Lures over the years.
They've been coming here for 69 years. Their rides are top notch. Their safety's top notch. They make payments. Yeah, the county's good. So
Have you done any comparison to any other potential vendors in the same area?
yes, I have.
And what's the quality or the product that they can provide?
They wouldn't be coming back for 69 years if they weren't the best.
Yeah, copy it.
I do. I do.
What's the money split like in the contract, Kevin?
Same split that it's been for the last 10 years, I think. Did modify the fuel surcharge, but other than that, it's same agreement that we've been operating on.
And we have a deadline on that contract.
It is, the agreement is null and void if it's not signed and returned by August 1st.
I'd make a motion to enter into contract with Lewis Ideal Rides.
Dave, you want to look at it first?
Well, it's got to be approved before August 4th meeting.
I mean, take your time. When I see one of the goals, it takes time.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to see it. Thank you.
While he's looking over that, I know that Brett from RMC had messaged me. He wanted to speak about the ball diamonds. I don't see Brett here. What's up?
The request of use.
Yeah, I can do that. I have a request for use of facilities by Tree City Fall Festival. Received that from Robin Meyer, Vice President of the festival. Looks like I have a certificate of liability of insurance here that accompanies their request. Looks like the festival is September 18th through the 21st of this year. They'll begin setup on Thursday at 5 p.m. Festival will be Friday and Saturday, cleanup on Sunday. They're requesting you to use the courthouse grounds, sidewalks, storefronts, streets. The street closures have been approved by the city of Greensburg. It's like they're going to have over 100 vendors and food booths, live bands, stage in. I know they always have some great shows there at the stage. They are also requesting to hook up to the electricity at the Sally Port. And we do bill them for the electrical. I'd entertain a motion on the request for use of the facilities.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, motion carries.
there were certain things that I just wanted to read a part of that, not necessarily an issue with them, but just as some of the stipulations of the contract is I just want clarity to see it.
All right, so back on the fair contract.
Second, Brian.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Kevin, is this one copy for us, one copy for them?
Yeah, they'd like, I'll get with Christie to have her email it and then send you the signed copy. There's an envelope in there to mail.
Two signature lines on it. All right, there's a new requirement that the commissioners have to review the salaries for county employees. So we received the schedule for all county employee salaries last week. Have you guys had an opportunity to review those?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on them?
What Christie said, really, we just have to acknowledge
And make a recommendation to the council. Go ahead. Yep. So seems like more of a formality to me, the way I understand it.
Right.
Yep. No questions. So I guess I would entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the council that they use these.
like them.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
I think that's in chiseled in stone.
Honestly, yeah. The new
We
one.
just went over Baker Tilly.
Yep.
I mean,
That's
hopefully it's not chiseled in stone.
that's a new one on me.
Recommendation.
We do need to look at getting a trailer. I know we've talked about it in some of our past meetings. I would like to have Charlie go and look for a trailer that we can use for mowing over the annex, so that we can tow the mower. The trailer is in Nevada County. So I know Danny and I have talked a little bit about the size of the trailer, 12 by 6.5 or.
Could be, that should be big enough. Shouldn't it, Ken? All that lawnmower and weed eater and push mower.
Yeah, so I think so.
All bigger than what you need.
12 by 6.5 probably be what we need, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah. And so I'd like to have Charlie go and look at it, get some prices from some different areas, and bring it back to us, and we can make a decision in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and talk to Charlie then and get that taken care of. Anything else for you guys? Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one more. I do need to introduce Chris Knoblet, new Parks Department Director. Welcome, Chris. Good to have you on board.
Very much looking forward to it.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Anything else, gentlemen?
I've got some. I
Yes,
got a text from Faith Coors. Her mother, Rose, in the hospital, not gonna make it through the day. Rose was on the county council. Faith worked up in the clerk's office for quite a long time. She just wanted the courthouse to know. Her mother was probably not gonna make it through the day.
Rose Helmy.
Rose Helmet, yeah.
I just have a question. The clerk's office has had issues with like minor leaks in the roof. The other day I had to have Charlie come in because the piece of the ceiling right in the middle now has like fallen on the girl's desk. And he said that the roof was to be repaired and they didn't want to repair the ceiling. done? Do you know when that will be?
We did that last month, I think.
I know he said it approved, but he didn't know when it
Yeah. I don't-
was.
we
No
can-
one was called once, about the schedule. I haven't heard back.
We'll have Charlie.
Charlie has to follow up with elements to get
Okay,
the schedule.
just on our list.
Anything else from your office? Any update that you'd like to give?
No, we're just very busy.
Leanne, anything from communications?
We're doing well.
You have anything from court services? No? Sheriff, talk to you. Ken, anything?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of update. Last week I had to run up to Indianapolis for a VA appointment, but while I was there, I stopped by the Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, did a greet and meet and do some networking, and ended up finding out that at least 4 of the people in that office I've had working relationships when I was working up at Joint Force Headquarters. So I got an in with the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs, a little bit tighter than what we were before. Just a couple of things that I'm working on that I think you guys ought to be aware. I'll probably bring some stuff up later on. One is the county has no transportation for our veterans to get to either VA Indianapolis or VA Cincinnati. We're relying on Rush County to transport our veterans to get to those appointments. And so somehow I would like to entertain how we can either get a vehicle. A couple of VSOs that I've talked to, they use county transportation, some of our own vehicles. There's one assigned to them, and they use that and get some volunteers to help drive our veterans. I've had at least 4 requests so far that I've had to turn away or send to Rush County for transportation. So I'd like to come up with a course of action to you guys on how we might be able to help those veterans. And then the other thing that I'm currently working on is working with Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs. We're going to try to start doing some quarterly briefings, probably in the after hours, to try to get veterans, their spouses, in so they can understand what benefits that they're eligible for and that they're missing out on. So far, some of the veterans that I have spoken to or have had come into my office have not even known half of the benefits that they are entitled to. And so I want to create some quarterly briefings so they can start understanding what they're missing out on. So I'm working on that, and I'll bring a presentation to you guys for that at some point. And then here in a few minutes, I'm actually meeting with the Indiana National Guard recruiter that's for Decatur County and Shelby County. We're going to meet and figure out how we can partner with each other so that if I'm doing one of those quarterly meetings, he might be able to help out, and also to help figure out how we can even reach our younger generations on whether or not they're looking for opportunities for school, to help pay for school through the Indiana Army National Guard. It's interesting that he's out at Shelbyville's Armory, which is where my last duty station was. So I also have now an in with those guys even closer knit than what I've had from before. So those are just a couple updates of where my office has been doing and what we're trying to continue to do. But keep sending veterans to my way. I'm keeping busy. They're keeping me hopping right now, which is what I want, because I think the word's finally getting out that, hey, there's opportunities and resources that we've been missing out on.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, really good work. Yes.
Mike, anything from EMA?
Out of this.
Weather reports have been great, thank you. Got all the communication. Fantastic.
All right, with that, I guess I would entertain a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second. We are recessed.
Yeah.